Hi, so I'm going to show a few features that are newly added to recent versions of OMERO.figure. The first of these is the ability to create inset panels. And this is something we've been able to do manually in the past, but now there is a single create inset button that creates an inset panel as well as the corresponding RY on the parent image. And these are linked now so that when you pan around the image, the RY will update accordingly and vice versa. We can do this to a single panel, but if I delete that, I'll show that you can also do this to multiple panels at once. And as expected, each panel is correspondingly linked to its parent RY. And whenever we update the viewports of the child, then the parent RYs will update, and that includes zooming. So let's zoom all of these in together, panning around, as well as resizing. I can duplicate these guys by copying and pasting them as usual. Let's have different settings here. And again, these ones are also will maintain their links to the parent. So this, when I pan this around, it'll update the parent. Probably what I want to do to keep these guys in sync is to set them both together so that I pan around and they stay in sync as well as the child. And again, if I duplicate the parent, both of these RYs will now be linked to children. So if I pan these around, both the parent RYs will update. And indeed, when I update the RY itself under the labels and edit RYs panel, I move this panel to a new location, you'll see that these panels update correspondingly. I can create multiple insets from the same panel. So if I move down here, and I can choose some different parameters for insets. So let's create a different color border so we can distinguish them. And I'm going to put this one at the bottom, and this will create a new independent panel. And again, I can update this one in the same way. I can also create kind of a hierarchy. So if I use this panel here as the parent and I go and create a new inset from this one, now I've got a kind of a hierarchy here of inset panels. And again, these will behave in the same way. And if I update the rotation, this will also be reflected in the parent RY. When I'm panning this guy around, I may actually want to keep the RY here in the middle of this panel and maybe keep the rotation consistent across all of them. And one way that I can do that is by selecting all these panels. And although the zoom is different, but I can still pan these around and keep the same center point and apply the same rotation to all of these panels at once. Okay, so that covers all of the inset functionality I wanted to talk about. Another new feature under the labels tab here is the ability to add a border to panels. So again, if I do this to multiple borders of panels at once, by default, this is yellow and 5 pixels wide. And I can use that to highlight the panel itself. But another useful feature is that it allows me to overlay panels and distinguish one panel from the other. I'm going to align these by highlighting both these panels together. and align it to the top and to the right. And then I'm going to change this border to white and make it a little bit thinner. So now I've got my inset that's still of its own independent panel, and as before, I can pan this around, and the inset ROI will be updated. Another new feature I can show over here is the ability to flip the orientation of a panel left and right, as well as up and down. And I can also quickly rotate the panel by an additional 90 degrees. So that'll change both the orientation of pixels data as well as the width and height of the panel itself. And I can just keep rotating 90 degrees like that. One new feature added to the preview panel here is this high-low lookup table, which allows me to quickly play with the levels of a panel, applying the high-low lookup table and turning on with one panel at a time. So then I can adjust individual the intensity of one panel at a time. And when I'm done, I uncheck this and I'll go back to the original colors, maintaining the new levels. I can, over in the ROIs panel, a new feature here is that I can now, when I'm editing ROIs, I can apply a color, a fill color and opacity to shapes. And that's possible for both existing and new shapes. And I can also update the line and fill color independently. If a panel has labels, let me just add some labels based on channel name here. And that's added some labels to the top here. I can now reorder these by dragging on these handles here. And that'll reorder the labels in the panel.